If you have TikTok and you like basketball, you probably know Chilltown Hoops.
Children of all ages, act like you know.
Yeah, what up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all over the world? Yes, sir, we are in effect. We are here to talk tonight about something that's pretty interesting. And I found out that the more things change, the more they stay the same. The players change, the game is still the same. Times change, but things are still the same. So when I think about the NBA, and I hear people telling me, well, the Eastern Conference is weak. Well, no. That's a narrative that people say and try to run with it. It's just not true. It can't be further from the truth. The Eastern Conference is a lot tougher today than it's been in years. A lot tougher. The players are better. Not only are the players better, but the foundation is better. The teams are better. All of that stuff is better when you're talking about the Eastern Conference. Well, a lot of times there isn't balance. And in this particular situation, there is balance because the Western Conference is better too. They just have more teams. If you think about the teams in the Western Conference, they're not as top heavy. They're not as top heavy. They have more teams. They are as top heavy as the East, and they have more teams. So if I think about the Eastern Conference, the East is 5, 6 solid teams. 5 or 6 solid teams. I'm thinking about Boston, the Knicks, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Philly, Orlando, Indiana. So 7 solid teams, maybe 8. Miami is pretty damn good too. Right? Miami is pretty damn good. So with that being said, right? With that being said, the Western Conference, I think the Western Conference got 10, 11 teams that are really good. And there are teams that are going to fall off, that are not going to make the playoffs, that are still going to be competitive. So you got Minnesota at the top, right? You got Minnesota at the top, Oklahoma City. I think Memphis is going to be back. Denver, Houston, Dallas, the Lakers. I know for a fact I'm leaving somebody out. Phoenix is going to be damn good. Just those 8 teams right there. Then you got the Clippers. I don't think the Clippers are going to make the playoffs, but I think the Clippers are going to be really competitive. I don't think New Orleans is going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to be out, but I could see New Orleans winning close to 45 games. And Sacramento, I think Sacramento is very much in the hunt for being in the top 6 seed. So of those teams, right? Of those teams, I'm thinking 10, 11 good teams. Like I said, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Memphis, Denver, Dallas, the Kings, Phoenix. Let's see. I feel like I'm leaving somebody out. Like I said, New Orleans is going to be good. I don't think Golden State's going to be very good at all. The Lakers, the Clippers. It's going to take in the Western Conference, like I said with Houston, it's going to take 50. I think it's going to take 50 wins. I think it's going to take 50 wins in order to get into the playoffs. I think Houston is a top 5 seed this year. I think they're going to be a lot better than what people give them credit for. I mean, they were a 500 team last year. I think that they make the leap this year. I think that Houston is not leaps and bounds, but I think they've gotten a lot better. And I think that it's time that guys like Jalen Green and Alfred Sengun actually stepped into the spotlight. I think last season, coming off the end of that season that Jalen Green had, and the fact that Sengun got hurt, the argument could be made that this team could have made the playoffs. That Sacramento team, I mean, they won 46 games. They were decimated by injuries. They were hovering around between 5 and 8. And if anybody knows the Western Conference, they know for a fact that you can have the 3 spot and you could go from 3 to 8 in a week. You could go from hosting a playoff series to being in the play-in tournament in a week. That could happen. So with that being said, this is going to be one of the more competitive Western Conferences that I've seen in a long time. And maybe the last decade. I'm thinking about probably 13, 14, when maybe not 13, 14, but early in the 2000s when I think the Warriors made the playoffs at the 8 seed, and I think they had won 50 games. Something to that effect, where the Warriors had won. This was in like probably 2012 or 2013, where the Warriors had won like 50 games and they barely got in the playoffs. Barely. I think we're looking at that kind of Western Conference. Yes. I think that's the kind of Western Conference that we're looking at, where 50 games. I mean, I think Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, this was way before the play-in tournament. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, in 14, Phoenix had won 48 games and missed the playoffs. Dallas barely got in the playoffs and they won 49 games. Memphis is a 7 seed winning 50 games. I think that's the kind of Western Conference that I'm going to see. Of the playoff teams, 5, 6, 7 of the 8 playoff teams won 50 games. I think that's what I think that's what I'm going to be looking at this season with the Western Conference, starting with Minnesota. I think that Anthony Edwards has not a breakout season, because I thought last year was him introducing himself, him getting off that Olympic team and seeing what it's like being around those guys. I've seen this time and time again when I've seen guys that play on the Olympic team. In the next year, they have one of those MVP type seasons. I saw Barkley do it. I saw James do it in 2007 and 08, and in 2007 when he was on the Olympic team that summer when they were training. Kevin Love. So when you Jason Tatum in 21, after he was on the Olympic team, the next year he's first team All-NBA. I can see Anthony Edwards having one of those type of seasons next year. And with him having one of those type of seasons next year, I can see the rest of that group with Conley, with DiVincenzo, with Alexander Walker, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels. I can see that team winning 60 games with Randall. I'm not on the fence about that. I think that that's realistic. I still got them at the top of the Western Conference. Then I got the Oklahoma City Thunder. The question mark that I have about Oklahoma City is J-Dub. Can J-Dub step his game up to be an all-star caliber player? Because if he can step his game up to be an all-star caliber player, I think that they solidify themselves at the top of the West. Because I saw Sacramento 2 years ago go from a 12 seed to a 3 seed. And they was in a dogfight with the defending champs, who they should have beat, by the way. They should have beat Golden State. They had them in the chokehold. They let them back in the series. They should have beat them dudes. But with that being said, they end up missing the playoffs last year. And there are some people who think that Sacramento was a fluke when they were just decimated by injury. I think that Oklahoma City, I think this is the year that they go from a play-in team to being a number one seed to solidifying themselves at being legit. They go from a play-in team in 22 to they go from a play-in team in 22. I'm sorry, in 23 to last season being the number one seed to now solidifying themselves as a legit contender. Because when you do it, when you come out of nowhere like what Oklahoma City did, if we being honest, that's exactly what happened. But if history is telling me what I think is telling me, I'm looking at Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City could get bounced in the second round because that's what happened. That's what happened to Sacramento. They go from the 12 to the 3 seed. Make the playoffs the next year. The year after that, they don't make the playoffs. Oklahoma City, they go from, Memphis. They go from being a play-in team or a playoff team to being the number 3 seed. They get bounced in the first round the next year. Is Oklahoma City going to be that team that came out of nowhere and now they're on everybody's radar? Right now they're on everybody's radar, and with them being on everybody's radar, they're not sneaking up on nobody. And with them not sneaking up on anybody, could they drop in the standings where we end up seeing Oklahoma City win 50 games, between 50 and 55 games, and now they're a number 3 or 4 seed? Could that happen with them? It could. But I think that they're just considering what they have. I think Shea continues to play at the level that he's playing. I think Chet makes improvements. I think that I think that mid-range and I think that 3 ball, I think that's better this year. I think he's a better defender. Unlocking Chet is why I am confident that he was the difference in everything that they were doing, because they didn't have that. When you got a big guy who can shoot the basketball like he does, when you got a big guy who can stretch the defense like he does, a lot of people talk about spacing. I don't think that you have to have a guy that shoots the basketball 22, 23 feet away from the basket. No. To have spacing. No. Milwaukee would be so much more respectable. Milwaukee would be so much better if Giannis could legit knock down a 17-footer and it was respectable. Because that spacing with Giannis and with Milwaukee would be so much better because now I got to honor that. I got to honor him at the elbow. I got to honor him at the free throw line. I got to honor him at the top of the key. I have to honor that. So when I honor that, Giannis has the ability to pump fake. Giannis has the ability to get downhill, drop it off to whomever is on the baseline, whether it's Bobby Portis or it's Brook Lopez, or if he needs to kick out to guys like Gary Trent. That works. But that only works if the mid-range works. And that's why the spacing in Milwaukee isn't as good as it could be. So now, right? So now Oklahoma City has a guy in Jalen Williams who finished second in Rookie of the Year his rookie season. Last year, he improved. This season coming up, 1, he's got to stay healthy. 2, I think he needs to improve getting downhill, because when you get downhill, you put a lot of pressure on defenses. And I think he can improve in his stop and pop game. If he improves there, I think that opens up the defense. I think that opens up the offense even more. And then you got a guy who, Lou Dort, is a damn good ball hawk. I think you got a better one than Alex Caruso. So with Alex Caruso, with both Alex Caruso and Lou Dort, I think your defense, plus with Shea on the perimeter, is damn good. See, when you got guys, I've said this countless times, when you have guys like Lou Dort, like Alex Caruso, you have guys to protect your perimeter guys. So as good as Shea is, he has somebody to protect him. As good as good as J-Dub is, he's got Lou Dort. He's got somebody to protect him. That's what Damian Lillard doesn't have. That's why Milwaukee is fool's gold in my estimation. With that being said, I think Memphis gets back to business. I do. I think Memphis gets right back to business. I don't like Marcus Smart in his role because I feel like he's overqualified for what he does, but I feel like they get right back to business. They get GG back in the lineup, and this is just the regular season. I ain't talking about winning the NBA championship. I'm not talking about winning the NBA championship. I'm not talking about getting to the Western Conference championship. I'm just talking about in the actual play-in tournament, which is the 82-game season. I'm talking about that. And this this Memphis team had all the ingredients. I didn't give Ja enough credit for the distributor that he was. And I didn't give him enough credit for the playmaker that he was. I think that him being back and recognizing, all right, I screwed up a lot. I think that's changed his game. 100% that's changed his game. So because of that, I'm going to see a rejuvenated Ja. Then you got Desmond Bane, one of the better long ball shooters in the game, with him being one of the better long ball shooters in the game, and a solid defender. Yeah, he doesn't take up a lot of space. He doesn't cover a lot of ground because his wingspan isn't that long. But he can knock down the long ball. He can get to the rim. Now, losing Dillon Brooks is a big deal. That's where GG Jackson comes in. That's exactly where GG Jackson comes in. And because as young as GG Jackson is, we saw what we saw last year. Because at 6'9", he can defend. And because at 6'9", he can score. That gives Memphis an even better element that they didn't have. Because now they got a bigger wing. He's not the defender that Dillon Brooks is, but with him being a defender and his range and how long he is, he can definitely help them. Now you get Zach Edey at the 5. We can move Jaren Jackson to the 4, which I think that's where he's the most comfortable. Right? I think that's where Jaren Jackson is the most comfortable. I think that makes him a better rebounder because you got Zach, and because Zach takes up so much attention as the glass cleaner that he is. And now Jaren Jackson can be the stretch 4 that I think he'll thrive in. And on top of that, him defensively, I think it's the same thing that was going on with Cat in Minnesota. Yo, if you stop fouling, if you stop fouling, yes, I do, Andre. If you stop fouling, we win. Because you stay on the floor. It's that elementary. Yes. If you stop fouling, that means you're on the floor. That means we win. So Jaren Jackson has a tendency where he has a lot of bad fouls. Very much like what Cat was doing. He can defend. I'd like to see him rebound more, but he can defend. He's just got to clean up his decision making as a defender. And then you got sharpshooters coming off the bench, like Luke Kennard, which I love. You got a dirty work guy in Brandon Clark. Love that. So I think Memphis is going to be right back in the middle of this at the number 3 seed. How I feel about Denver, I think they win anywhere between 48 to 50 plus games. And the reason why I'm so high on Denver is the same reason why, even though Milwaukee is fool's gold, I still think that they're going to be a playoff team, and I still think they're going to be dangerous off the strength that they got arguably the best player in the league. Well, Denver got the best player in the league. And they got a 1-2 punch in both Jamal Murray and Joker. Now, if we're being honest, I think Jamal Murray is one of the better pull-up jump shooters in the game. I think him and Joker, when they got it rolling, I think that they're the best 1-2 punch in the game. They've shown that. Getting MPJ back in effect. Aaron Gordon plays so well off of Joker. The loss of KCP, which a lot of you guys saw that they signed Russ and thought that Russ isn't gonna supplement KCP. Well, he's not supposed to. He's backing up. He feels in Reggie Jackson's spot. That's his spot. Yes. He feels in Reggie Jackson's spot. That's his spot. So, because that's his spot, who is going to fill in for what KCP did? That's where Christian Brown has to get better. See, you guys have a tendency, which makes me nuts. You guys have a tendency to let these guys off the hook. And, yo, let's get this guy in here. Let's get this guy in here. Because everything is quick. You drafted Christian Brown. Just like the Miami Heat drafted Bam. Turn him into a player. Turn him into a player. Stop letting these guys off the hook. Christian Brown was on a national championship team in Kansas. He was a solid rotation player on a championship team. Make him get better. Demand that he get better. You need to shoot the long ball better. You need to be able to stretch the defense. You need to be a better defender. Don't let him off the hook. Don't let him off the hook. Stop searching for answers. Stop searching for answers everywhere else when everything you need is right there. Right there. Christian Brown can supplement what KCP did if you make him get better as a defender. He's a hard-nosed defender. I watch him get around. I watch him navigate through screens. I watch him get around screens. I watch him as an on-ball defender. The difference is that his minutes weren't consistent. He can get consistent minutes now that KCP is gone. Make him get better. Stop letting these guys off the hook. I'm tired of this from you guys. Yo, we need this guy. We need to trade this guy. No. No. Make him get better. I think Houston, I'm high on Houston off the strength that these kids that they have, I think that team is going to be predicated on what Memphis was predicated on earlier in the 2010s during the Grindhouse with Zach Randolph and Mike Conley and Tony Allen. So that hard-nosed grit and grind with better offense. I think Jabari Smith's an all-league defender. I don't think he's a good defender. I think he's an all-league defender. I think he's that good. I think he could be that good. So because of that, with his ability to shoot and his ability to get downhill, because I think he can be better at that, plus Dylan Brooks, right? Plus Dylan Brooks. In addition to Dylan Brooks, Eason coming off the bench. This team, this Houston team with Reed Shepherd, Eason coming off the bench. I love what I'm seeing from them. I do. I absolutely love this Houston team, and I think they could be a top 5 seed. I think they could be Sacramento from 2 years ago. I think they could be Memphis. I think they could be Oklahoma City. I think they could be that good. I do. I think they could be a 50-plus win team this season. And what they do in the playoffs, I think that's asking a lot. I'll have to see what they do in the playoffs. But in the regular season, I think they could be damn good. I do. I think this Houston team, I think they can be, because I just like what I see from them. I like what I see from them just from a foundation standpoint. With Dylan Brooks at the 3, one of the better defenders in the game. You got your heady point guard in Fred VanVleet. You got a super freak athlete. In fact, not only do you have a super freak athlete, you got a log jam at the forward spot, which is a good thing in Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore. You got a gritty backup in Steven Adams, who I think is one of the more solid ones. I think he's one of the more solid backup big men. In addition to him, you got a vet in Jeff Green. And then I didn't even bring up Jalen Green and Sengun and how they're going to operate. So they're solid at every position. They solid at just about every position. So because of that, and the difference in this unit with the talent that they have, the difference in this unit is at the helm. Coach Udoka is one of the few coaches in the NBA who holds guys accountable. And I love that. I don't like that. I love that about him. I do. I love that about him. There aren't many guys, right? There aren't many guys, coaches, who hold guys accountable. If you're not rebounding, you're not going to play. If you can't make open shots, you got to get them off the floor. If you're turning the basketball over, you got to get them out of the game. How are you going to help us win? How? And if you can't do that consistently, right? And if you can't do that consistently, nope, you got to get off the floor. Yes, I do. Yes, you do. Yeah, I do like Eason as a rotation player. Hell yes, I do. Yes, I do like Eason as a rotation player. 100%. 100% I do like Eason. Yep. One of the better small forwards that they have. Like I said, that they got themselves a good problem, and I like that. I do. I 100% like that. So Dallas is going to be right back in the middle of it because they got I think they got the best scorer in the game. Klay Thompson's still one of the better sharpshooters in the game. Yep, Klay Thompson is one of the better sharpshooters in the game, and I like that about him still. I'm not sure about that offense, and I'm not sure how Klay Thompson can function as a standstill shooter, even though he could shoot the shit out the basketball. But he's coming from an offense where there was a lot of action, a lot of ball movement. That's rhythm as a shooter. If I'm standing in the corner or I'm standing above the break and I don't see the basketball 2 or 3 trips, that could be tough. Yeah, that could definitely be tough. So I could see Dallas winning 50, 51 games. I think when you guys hear 6 seed, I don't think that you guys recognize how tough the Western Conference is going to be. 5 to 9 is going to be separated by like a game or 2. I don't think that there's anybody from 5 to 9 that's really going to separate themselves. I don't think so. I think the Lakers are built more for the playoffs. I think they do enough to get in I think they do enough to get in the playoffs. But Sacramento's going to be right back in the middle of it. Sacramento was decimated by injuries last season, and if Herter, Monk, and Trey Lyles don't get hurt, that's a playoff team. If Monk, Herter, and Trey Lyles don't get hurt, that is a playoff team. They were hovering right around 5 and 8 the entire season, separated by them in New Orleans, separated by like 1 game. That's how Monk ended up missing out on a 6th man of the year. He missed the last 10 games of the season. That's almost a month. When you're in a playoff race, especially in the Western Conference, when you're in a playoff race, man, I don't have a month to lose a guy, especially one of my best players. Hell no, I don't have that. Hell no. That could sink us, which it sunk Sacramento. Because this is a team, again, that was hovering right around between 5 and 8 the entire season. That last month, when they lose Monk and they lose Herter, 46 games and they missed the playoffs. 46. So I think the Western Conference is going to be a nightmare this season. I don't think it's going to be bad. I don't think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a nightmare. a straight nightmare. And with the players that are in the West, the teams that are in the West, I think it makes it even more competitive. Now, you talk about the East. The East isn't a duck walk neither. I don't think we give the East. I don't think we give the East enough credit for who's in the East with Joel Embiid. You had the runner up to you had the go running away league MVP, right? So with him, not just with him, you got Giannis in the East. You know, you got the assist leader in the East. You got the most improved player in the East. You got a top 5 league MVP candidate in Jalen Brunson in the East. And please don't let me forget, you have the NBA champions in the East. So I think the East is a nightmare. I do. I think I think the East is a nightmare too, man. I do. I just don't think that it's has as many teams as the Western Conference. We could see. I think that we can see a repeat of like what went on in like 2013, 2014, like in the late 2000s. I think we could see something like that. I do. I definitely think we could see something like that. So I'm confident that the teams that I think are going to be good are going to be good. But I also think that we could have some historically bad teams. Is there anybody that I think is going to sneak up that's bad? I mean, I hear the conversation that, you know, Wemby's the defensive player of the year this year. Well, if Wemby's the defensive player of the year, that means the San Antonio one is a much better defensive team. Not only are they a much better defensive team, they're a much better overall team. And with 22 wins, what does that 22 wins turn into? Because I have yet to see the defensive player of the year be on just a good defensive team. No. In the last 30 years, Marcus Camby and Dikembe Mutombo were both on teams that were middle of the road defensively. Lonzo Mourning in the 99-2000 season, the Miami Heat were a top 10 defense. They were 7th. So those 3 guys, you had a guy whose team was in 7th place defensively, a guy whose team was in 14th, and I think a guy whose team was in 15th. Other than that, every guy who's won the defensive player of the year, team has been a top 3 seed. Defensively, there's no way that Wemby's winning defensive player of the year and San Antonio is, I don't know, 16th or bottom 10. That's not happening. That is not happening. They have to be a damn good team defensively in order for Wemby to win the defensive player of the year. My pick for defensive player of the year is Evan Mobley. I think Cleveland is going to be a lot better than not a lot better. Let me rephrase that. I think they're going to be right where they were last year. They were 2 games out the 2 spot. They were a game out the 3 spot, which is where I thought they were going to be. I think they're going to be a top 3 seed this year. I think Evan Mobley, if he plays 75 games like he did in 21-22, where he finished 2nd in defensive player of the year, where he played 79 games, right? Where he played 79 games. Last year, he missed half the season. He ended up missing half the season last year. So with him missing half the season, he's already out of the consideration of being the defensive player of the year. He's already out of it. So with that being said, if you like San Antonio that much, there's a lot that has to go on with them. Look, them 22 games got to turn into, I don't know, 45 games. That's a 23-game improvement. Who doing that? I think that's a pretty big deal, right? I think that's a pretty big deal if you're doing that. So I'm going to hear from you guys, though. I do. I want to hear from you guys. And Is the Western Conference a nightmare? What up?
Hey, what up, Joe? Is
What
my
up?
audio working?
Yep, you hot.
Alright, Joe. I've heard what you said. I ain't gonna lie. The East and the West, right? With the West, I hear you from. I hear where you're coming from in terms of the whole conference is gonna be a dogfight, right? But for me, there is one team in that conference that is just on a level above everybody else,
And that's the
and that's
Celtics. Sure.
in the West. In the West, it's the Thunder. The Thunder on another level to every team, and I'm gonna tell you why. And I'll
I'm
ask
all
you
there.
three questions.
I'm all ears to hear this. Go ahead.
How many teams in the West can play a 5-out offense?
How many teams in the West can play a 5-out offense? Let's see. If I think about the Western Conference, Houston can play 5-out. Memphis can play 5-out. Dallas can play 5-out.
Are we sure that Dallas can play 5-out?
100%. I watched Derek Lively play on the perimeter a lot last season.
On
I watched him
offense.
play. Yes, I watched him play on the perimeter a lot last season, navigating screens. In fact, I was actually surprised how good he was in the short roll
He
with the
surprised me in the
basketball. I was
His
actually
ability
surprised
to
how good he was. I wasn't.
Playmaking-
I thought he was going to be a project. I was actually surprised how good he was.
His ability to play make, he did
Yep.
surprise me, especially
Minnesota
in the
can play
playoffs.
5-out.
But
Minnesota can play 5-out too, by the way.
I don't know. I'm gonna put a pin in Minnesota. I think last year they could. This year I need to see it. With the moves they've made.
Why can't they play 5-out? With a lineup of Conley, Ant, Alexander Walker, Nas Reed, Julius Randle. Why can't they play 5-out?
So here's my problem. Randall is I don't like the way he shoots the ball. I'm not convinced. He can shoot a good mid-range and he can get to the basket well. And he's a
That's
good
enough.
playmaker. The one thing that people don't talk about Randall is his playmaking. I'm not convinced on the way his jumper looks. It's inconsistent. He's only had 1 year when I believe he shot well. And look, so long as he's
Shot
respectable,
what well? Shot the long ball well, or just shot well? Because he shot the
he
long
can
ball
shoot
well.
He can shoot well, but he
Mhm.
just needs to be respectable, right? And
Which
going
he
from
is.
Cat to Randall, there's a
Mhm.
difference in how much you have to respect the long ball.
Right.
The
I can
reason
get with
why
that.
I asked you that question is out of all those teams, OKC can play 5-out better than all of those teams combined because their ability to space the floor is probably the best, barring the Celtics, in the entire NBA.
Really? So if I look at Oklahoma City's lineup, so if you go, who is Oklahoma City's lineup? Who starts at the 1 for them?
So for me, it's Shea.
Okay, so
Now,
Shea's
here's a question
Shea's
for
not much
you.
of a long ball shooter. Let's
Do
let's
you
start right
believe
there.
Shea's more of a point guard or a shooting guard? I believe he's more of a point guard, but
Okay, so he's a lead guard.
and then I'd have Caruso at the 2.
I got J Dub at the 2, but go ahead.
And I have J Dub at the 3. So
Okay.
here's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have J Dub at the 3. Then I would have what's that guy's name? Forgot Lou Dort at the 4, and I'd have Chet at the 5. Every single one of those players, you got to respect their long ball.
I'll live with Lou Dort shooting. I'm good with
You
that.
can live with it, but
I'll live with that.
you have to respect.
You talking to me like they have the Celtics in terms of being on the perimeter. They're not.
They
not.
have them in terms of volume. They're the closest team that can deal with the Celtics in terms of volume.
No, they're not.
And here's the thing that people don't realize: Isaiah Joe can shoot the ball. Isaiah Joe
he can.
shoot the ball.
Wiggins too.
Wiggins too.
Yep, Wiggins too.
And here's the terrifying thing: I don't think OKC is done. That's the most terrifying part of.
What do you mean you don't think they're done? They're not done with what?
With this team, because this was a 50-win team as its base. They've improved on this team.
Right.
So I look at this team now, and you could argue that they have one of the best perimeter defenses, if not the best perimeter defense. I'm gonna say it's them in Boston for me.
Okay. Even though I like what they're doing in Minnesota, but go ahead.
I like what they like doing in Minnesota as well, but I'm a massive fan of Alex Caruso. I think Caruso's perimeter defense is one of, especially on ball.
You can
On-ball
make a
defense,
case he's the best on-ball defender
you
in the
can
game.
argue he's the best.
I think that's a realistic. I don't think that's ridiculous to say that he's the best on-ball defender in the game.
And
That's not ridiculous to
I
say that.
love the way that Shea defends. I love the
Mhm.
way that Chet defends, especially as he got more comfortable throughout the season. You really saw how well Chet played. And Chet is the big X factor on this team. With the
Mhm.
spacing that OKC is going to be able to create now, you're going to have opportunities for Chet, and J-Dub
Mhm.
to create more. I
Mhm.
saw a lot from Jalen Williams last year, which I did not think he had.
Which is
The ability to create a shot within the mid-range and
Yep.
outside and drive to the rim all in one player. I didn't think he had the versatility in his game like that. Right?
Yes.
And if he is able to be that kind of player with Chet, with Shea, with Caruso, with Isaiah Joe, with all these players that they have, I just don't see a massive weakness on this. And I forgot about one of the biggest pieces they added. Isaiah Hartenstein is massive for this team.
Sure. He plays in the mid post mostly. Plays in the mid
Mid-post,
post.
but he
Yeah.
adds size to this team.
Well,
which is
sure. He
huge.
gives them. He definitely gives them that. But
And he
so does
helps them
Minnesota.
with the rebounding issues they've had.
And so does Minnesota. Minnesota absolutely has size.
Absolutely.
They got dirty work guys. Not only do they have dirty work guys, to have a guy in Julius Randle, because I already know how you feel about him as a jump shooter. But there's a difference between a guy who can shoot and a shooter. Julius Randle is a shooter. And Julius Randle as a passer, because he's able to collapse the defense because he gets to the rim and he punishes defenses getting to the rim and even playing in the paint, punishes defense. That collapses the defense. So because he does that, now what he's able to do, he's able to get more shots for Mike Conley. He's able to get more shots for Ant Edwards. He's able to get more shots for Dante DiVincenzo. He's able to get more shots for Alexander Walker. He's able to get more shots for Naz Reid. These guys stretch the defense. Right?
Sure.
These guys absolutely stretch the defense. So because he's able to do that, right? Because he's able to do that, that gives them a weapon that they didn't have. Because Cat wasn't much of a
playmaker like Julius Randle. He could not playmake like Julius Randle.
No, he couldn't. So when I think about Oklahoma City, Shea isn't much of a long ball shooter, but he can play in the mid range, 100%. I don't know if I love Alex Caruso as a shooter. I don't love him. I like Alex Caruso as a shooter, but when I think about what Minnesota has, when I think about what Dallas has in terms of shooters, I mean, I think they got better shooters than Alex Caruso.
But I would argue that if Alex Caruso is your fourth or fifth best shooter on your team, you have a very, very good shooting team. And I believe that's where OKC are at.
I'll live with Lou Dort knocking down the long ball and shooting in the mid range. I'll live with that. I will.
The problem is that you can't live with it when you have a player like Shea on your team, right?
Why not?
Because of the amount of pressure he's going to create. It's not just Lou Dort you have to worry about. You've got four other shooters on that team. So the problem is when you have that much spacing and you have the ability to go big, you have the ability to go small, you have the ability to go 5 out, you have the ability to basically play with whatever lineup you want. There's just too much versatility in this OKC lineup to the point where they can play whatever style they want to play, and they can make you play however you want.
Adrian, you make it sound like I got to pick my poison with Oklahoma City in terms of shooters. No, I don't. No, I do not. If I'm choosing between Shea getting busy and Lou Dort getting busy, yo, I'm putting so much pressure on Shea.
Absolutely.
I will live with Lou Dort shooting all night. If I got to choose between Shea getting busy and I'm helping off of Alex Caruso, I'll live with Alex Caruso shooting. 100%. I can't say that about Klay Thompson. I can't say that about Derek White. I can't say that about those guys.
My point is that you got Chet there. You got Isaiah Joe there. I haven't even talked about Cason Wallace. I haven't even talked about Aaron Wiggins. I haven't even talked about the fact that Jalen Williams can space the floor. Right?
Yeah, I don't love him neither. I think J-Dub is more of a scorer than he is a shooter.
Right. But for me, it's whenever I say shooter, I don't mean about your actual ability to shoot. It's more about, are you respectable? Are you respectable enough to the defense to where I have to contest, right?
Right.
And every single one of those players you have to respect. Now, I know you're not a big fan of Lu Dort's shooting at that level, and I can understand that. It's not consistent, but I'd say these last 2 years, he's really made progress in terms of being a respectable, consistent shooter in that regard. So, with the level of players that OKC have, and they're all young as well, so they're only going to get better. And the fact that Shea just puts so much pressure on the rim, and he's just so crafty to the point where he can get a shot no matter where he wants to be. It just puts so much pressure on any team they go against, and they can play in any way they want, which is so hard to defend. You want to go big, we can go big. You want to go small, we can go small.
But you don't have the big guys. You don't have the big guys. I mean, don't get me wrong. As good as Chet is, right? As good as Chet is, because I think Chet unlocks. I think Chet unlocks something that they don't have, and
right.
I can definitely get with that. But when you got to run up on teams that are a little bit more physical, like Minnesota is gonna be, that's gonna be a problem for you guys. Like the Lakers are gonna be. I'm just throwing out teams like Houston is gonna be. When you run up on teams that are gonna be more physical, it's going to be difficult on those guys. And I listened to you talk to me about Oklahoma City and how they space the floor, which I can get with. I won't argue Shea 16 to 19 feet. I'm comfortable with Shea shooting the long ball. Knock yourself out, brother.
But I'm good with that. So I think out of all the teams that you mentioned there, you living with whatever OKC wants to do, it's still probably a worse option than any other.
No, wait a minute, Adrian, and I want you to keep going, but I'm not living with whatever they want to do. I'm living with shooters like Lu Dort, like Alex Caruso. I'm living with Shea cracking the long ball. I'm good on that. I'll live with that. What I'm not living with is I'm not living with Shea getting downhill and getting to the rim. I'm not living with Jalen. I'm not living with Jalen Williams getting to the bucket and living in the mid range. I'm not living with Shea getting to the mid range and living there. No, hell no. We got no shot if that's going on. Absolutely not.
And
no. Mm-mm. But I will live with Lu Dort. I'm helping off Lu Dort. I am.
Right.
I'm 100% helping off Lu Dort.
My point on all of this is whatever you think is the worst outcome in terms of the shot you want to give up to OKC.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, there's just so much versatility in that lineup that means that you're going to have to deal with multiple shots you have to give up, not just one. And second of all, that shot you have to give up is probably much, 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 much more of a difficult matchup than the other teams in the West. So for me, when I look at this team, I just think they have everything. And they're so versatile. And another point I forgot to mention, they got one hell of a coach in OKC.
Yes, they do. Wasn't coach of the year?
They got one hell of a coach.
Yeah, they do. 100% they do. So,
and he knows how to scheme players up.
Yes, he does. Good to talk to you, brother. Absolutely. Breezy, what it be?
I'm right here. Oh man, I'm gonna be honest with you. Shout out to that last guy. I was gonna say a lot of stuff he was gonna say, but I was putting more emphasis on Hartenstein and how Chet is going to be able to be Chet because of Hartenstein. Because I watch the Knicks a lot or whatever. But I'm a Nets fan. Just getting that out there. I seen Hartenstein with him in the pick and roll. Yep. That's what the West need to be worried about. The pick and roll between Shea and Hartenstein. I watched Jalen Brunson deserves the credit that he gets, but he was able to beat Jalen Brunson because of that pick and roll with Hartenstein. And to my knowledge, OG, the pick and roll is the most used offense in the NBA. Is that fair to say?
Everybody doing it. If you're not doing it, then something's wrong.
Word. So I think because they probably going to be one of the better pick and roll teams, I like them. But just narrative wise, I like Randall being mad on Minnesota. I like him next to Ant-Man. I like DiVincenzo being mad. I like them being upset. I like them having something to prove. I like Cat not being there because he let Rudy Gobert get choked out. I like somebody like Randall there, like, yo, Rudy, man. I would never let that happen to you, my brother.
No way. Ain't no way he let Draymond Green jump on him like that. Ain't no way that's happening. Julius is like, no way. Julius getting thrown out of that game. He
So
100%
all right.
getting thrown out of that game.
Just that element of it, Chill. I want to ask you, just the whole cat letting Rudy getting choked out. Randall, the certain toughness, because toughness is not necessarily a stat you see in the box score. Do you think the toughness of Randall and I don't know, maybe the chemistry between him and DiVincenzo helps them be a top 4 team in the West with the Wolves?
I still got them at the top of the West, and I think that DiVincenzo gives them an element that they didn't have. Another element that they didn't have, and that's another long ball shooter, a guy who could stretch the defense, and you got a perimeter defender in DiVincenzo. So I already got Alexander Walker, right? I got Ant, I got
Yeah.
Mike Conley. So now I'm adding DiVincenzo, who can shoot the ball too, who can also defend, and that's what our mantra was last year. We were hard-nosed, tough-nosed, tough defensive team, and I'm adding DiVincenzo, a Northeast guy, to that lineup. Yes, I love what that is. And Julius Randle being the bully that he is, yes, I love that.
Yeah, I just, because I seen your guys swipe or pull out the board with about the Knicks and how they can make it work and this and that. So I just kind of want to make it hurt real quick. Thank you, sorry. I got you. I just wanted to ask, can you speak to DiVincenzo and how he contributed to the Bucks when they was winning in the playoffs, and how he played with the Knicks in the playoffs, and what he means to be a playoff, the DiVincenzo impact as a playoff player coming off the bench and being in a rotation. I wanted to ask you, can you just make it hurt for the Knicks? Because they didn't have like 39 for the Knicks. Oh no. You know what I'm saying? So how do you feel about him in the playoffs?
I love DiVincenzo in the playoffs. I love DiVincenzo just on that roster. So when you have a 6'4", 6'5" shooter who's a tough nose defender, which you can't have enough of those on your crew, and you got him on the cheap. Let's make sure we remember that part. You got him on the cheap. His deal is only
Right.
His deal is 3 years at 36 million. So I think he was the best. I think statistically, I think he was the best sharpshooter in the game last year. To have that on your crew, and you get and now we have that on our crew, and we got it for cheap. So I got a guy like Mike Conley creating shots for him. I got a guy like Julius Randle creating shots for him, and on the other end, I got him guarding. I got him competing on defense, and he's durable because you saw what happened last year when he played with the Knicks. You saw what happened. He will play.
Didn't he have a game when he had like 39?
Yes, and he will be on the floor. He is going to play. Let's make sure that we clear on that. He's going to play. So with him being on the floor, and with what they have with Julius Randle creating shots for him, and I don't think that we give DiVincenzo enough credit for his ability to get downhill, because he get downhill, he can get to the rim too. And I can't emphasize this enough. The fact that you gave him away, he was almost like a throw-in for that little bit of money that he was that little bit of money that he had on his contract. And I think that Minnesota is getting a bargain. I think they're getting a bargain for that little bit of money.
Nah, facts. I ain't gonna hold you, man. I got dad duty, man. Yo, shout to you,
Yes,
Chill. I'm watching. I'm in the chat.
Yes, sir. Talk to you later, brother. I'm a big fan of DiVincenzo. I dig him. I dig what he does. I dig what he does as a long ball shooter. I dig what he does as a spot up shooter. I dig everything about his game, everything, and what he did in the playoffs last year. That like what he did in the playoffs last year. Just considering everything that they had, his ability to get stops. I mean, if you let Tyrese Halliburton tell it, Tyrese Halliburton was kicking his ass. Not really. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, he had to make tough shots on DiVincenzo. I'll live with Tyrese Halliburton shooting fall away 26-footers. Knock yourself out, brother. Go ahead. You can shoot that shit all night long. I will live with that all night long. You can shoot that, no doubt about it. So a guy in DiVincenzo who could get downhill, who could get to the rim, who the majority of his shots last season was at the long ball line. I think 70% of his shots he shot at the long ball line. Yep, and made 40% of them. 70% of his shots he shot at the long ball line and made 40% of them. I mean, I don't know how many guys I can say in the league are like that. I don't know how many guys are in the league that can say that they're doing that. I'll live with that. So, what up?
What's going on?
What up?
I'm not gonna get angry. I'm not gonna get pissed off. But what the hell was Bobby thinking with this Paul Pierce agenda that he was trying to push on that damn weekend? Like that
Exactly.
was, yeah. I probably should. I don't think he's been live since.
Hmm.
And when I see his ass, I'm definitely let him know that he's out of pocket. I mean, you always say out of pocket shit. I'm just like, you know what? I'm befuddled to it. But the thing about the narrative of the Eastern Conference being weak, it's never about how the season went. It's always about how the playoffs go. And last year, it creates that narrative when the healthiest team is running in the teams that when the healthiest and the best team by a mile, by like we talking about you going from here to here. Hold up, that's my camera. That's you already know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to talk about them because you already know how I feel about everything they stand for. Shout out to Drew Holiday for the carry job that he did. But when that team has that much of a health gap and a talent gap over their competition, then that's what creates that narrative. It's never the season. So everything that you're talking about is 100% true. Now, another question I wanted to ask you was, how many teams you got in the West winning 50 games?
All the playoff teams.
All the playoff teams. All
the
six of them.
playoff team. All 8 of them. I got all 8. It's going to
Eight
take.
of them?
I think this season it's going to take 50 games. It's going to take 50 wins to get in the playoffs. Yes.
So I'm gonna just break down my West 1 through I'll say 1 through 10.
Yep.
I got OKC at 1.
60 wins.
Dallas at 2.
I think they win 50 plus games.
Minnesota at 3.
I think they at the top of the West. I think they win 60 games too. Close to it. Yes.
Memphis at 4.
I think they win 55 games.
Phoenix at 5.
I think Phoenix is a play-in team. They might be on the outside looking in.
Denver at 6.
Denver's going to win 50 games.
Sacramento at 7.
I got Sacramento winning 50 plus games.
I got who is this? What I got? Pelicans at 8.
I don't got the Pelicans making the playoffs. I think they win 42, anywhere between 42 and 45 games.
Lakers at 9.
I think the Lakers I think they make the playoffs, but I think that they right there at 50 games.
Rockets at 10.
I think the Rockets are Sacramento. I think they are OKC. I think they Memphis. I think they win 50. I think they win 55 games this year. Maybe between 50 and 55 games they win this year. That also means that the teams that don't make the playoffs, like Portland, Utah,
San Antonio.
I don't think those teams are going to be as good as people think they're going to be.
Clippers and Warriors are in the on 11 to 15 as
Which by the way, you're going to love this. I think the Warriors are going to suck this year. I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're going to be garbage. I think that Steph Curry, by the time the trade deadline comes, you're gonna hear hitting chirps that Steph Curry is asking out. I think they're gonna be garbage.
Yeah, right. Hey, listen, he ain't going no damn way, man. Stop that. You're making $62 million. My I'm very, very high on what Memphis is about to do. Memphis, I see them winning between 51 and 49 games. So if I want to be realistic about it, I see them around that mark. The Zach Edey is probably the best intangible player for them, and I think don't they got Brandon Clark coming back?
Yes, they do.
And that's gonna help because what made them peak at top 2, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago was the fact that they was the best.
No, they were 2. I'm sorry, they were the second.
Yeah.
They lost to the Lakers. That's correct.
Right. What made them peak at top 2 in the year that they lost to the Warriors was the fact that they was the best rebounding team for 2 years for that 2-year period, bar none. You know what I'm saying? Like I think the only team that was behind them was maybe the Bucks. And I already know how you feel about the Bucks. Dallas, I think this is the year where Luka is gonna finally win MVP. I think this is the year. I can see it. I think it's he's gonna play a good amount of games without Kyrie Irving. Not that many. I say about a good 10 plus games without Kyrie Irving. But in those games, he's gonna go ballistic.
Mm.
I personally believe. And with the addition of Klay Thompson and Najee Marshall, you got some floor space in there, man. That's kind of what they needed. I do agree with what you said about Derek Lively, and I don't think the young man Adrian was considerately know what you was talking about when you talked about his ability to flash some screens and his ability to show his playmaking ability at the free throw line, what he does there. And he got a pretty decent jump shot too. For a lot of people
I
haven't
thought he
really
was a
seen his
project, if I'm being honest with you.
yeah.
I thought he was going to be a project his rookie year. He was a lot better than what I thought he was. A lot.
And the kid that reminds me of him is the kid that plays for the Pelicans, Messi. So keep an eye out on him during the season, because
Messy.
he got the same qualities. So that was the one on them. Now Minnesota is a bit tricky because I don't think that Julius Randle wants to stay there, and that's part of the reason why the Knicks pulled the trigger on his trade, because he wanted it was something with the extension. I think he wanted more money or something like that. But we got to remember he's a two-time All NBA player. You get money from that, and I think if he makes All NBA team this year, which that's kind of a stretch, man. I mean,
Minnesota's
I
going
don't
to
really
pay him.
see it.
That's why he's going to ball out for that reason
I
right there.
mean,
What
but
you
I
just
mean,
said.
but I don't know if he wants to stay in Minnesota.
If they paying, he ain't going nowhere. Because if you think about what's going on with the Knicks and what's going on with it's not like he got traded to the Trailblazers, Lee. He didn't get traded
Right?
to
Yeah,
Charlotte.
no, I know,
He basically in the same situation. He's basically in the same situation that he was in with the Knicks. I'm on a championship contender. I'm on a team that's battling to get to the NBA Finals. We are not that far away, and I'm in a contract year. So number one, I got to make sure that I'm in line. I got to make sure that I'm on page with everybody here. Number two, I got a ball, and if I rock, I get paid. That was the problem with the Knicks.
Yeah,
So,
I dig that. Now the thing with the Suns is we got to remember they got a distributor now. They got Tyus Jones, who was averaging 7 assists and 1 turnover, respectively, last year with Washington. So now they got somebody that's gonna like set the tone. That's what they were missing.
yep.
You know what I'm saying? So like that is at least they 48 wins or plus. At least, I see them as a top 6 in the West. That brings me to Denver. I think Denver has been reduced. And you talked about Christian Braun getting better. I think that can happen, but I think it's baby steps. And what I mean by that is he's going to have nights where he may have a play run for him down the stretch, or he may or Joker may hit him with like some come open cuts. Obviously, we all know how the playmaker that Joker is. He's going to get anybody easy baskets because that's what he does. I think their depth is kind of lacking a bit. It's not what obviously.
Do we need to run action for Christian Braun? Or do we just need him to make open shots and play defense like what KCP did?
Both.
No.
Oh.
I just think we need to
sure?
get him open. Yes. All we need to do is get him to make open shots like KCP did and defend. The guys that are bucket getters on this crew are Aaron Gordon, MPJ, and Jamal Murray. Those are your guys. I need Christian Braun to knock down open shots, get in a stance, get his feet moving, get his hands busy, and speed the game up. I don't need to run action for him like that. I don't.
I mean, but when you look at Christian Braun when he's in the lineup with Joker, how much is he getting assisted off of Joker or for anybody else?
Well, that's action throughout the offense. They're not running anything specifically for him.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, in terms of like when I look at him as a long ball shooter or like somebody that's going to be open for open shots, I see him as mostly like a cutter, like because he could definitely. They run a lot of backdoor cuts for him, like, all right, yo, you getting an open cut and things like that. So that's kind of action within itself. My thing is
that's
like,
everybody though. That's not just him. That's Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
That's MPJ. That's everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, but the guys that's standing at the long ball line, outside of KCP, of course you're gonna have MPJ who's throwing that bitch up 9 times out of 10.
He's never
We
seen
keep
a
going
shot
into
that he doesn't like. He's
exactly.
never seen a shot that
Yeah,
he doesn't
never
like.
seen a shot. Jamal Murray and Joker are in the pick and roll. Aaron Gordon is occupying the dunk box at most times, and maybe sometimes he'll be in the corner, maybe hit a 3 or 2. But most of the action that's run for Christian Braun, if there is action at all, is mostly backdoor cuts, slips to the basket. You could get a layup. He maybe hit a corner 3 here and there, but
Find him in
Christian Braun.
transition. Find him in
Christian, yeah,
transition.
oh yeah, in transition too.
Mhm.
Yeah, transition too.
That's
as
where
well.
that's where Russ comes in.
Yeah.
So
All right.
that's
Yeah,
where
I
Russ
like,
comes in.
but the Rockets. Now I'm gonna get to the Rockets because you was high on the Rockets. I'm not as high on the Rockets simply because of the fact of I'm trying to see what steps the rest of their young talent are gonna take, like up. You talked about Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith, I think I think he could be a good defender. I just don't really see it yet. I see a bit. I see he could be. He could possibly be where Jonathan Isaac is someday. Possibly. Dylan Brooks. He's definitely giving them an identity. Defensively, just being a tough, just doing the little things, the dirty work type of guy that he is.
If Jonathan Isaac played more, is he an all-league defender?
Yes.
And I think the same thing happens with Jabari Smith because he's healthy and he plays more. So, Leaf, I'd love to talk to you, but I got to keep it moving, brother. I definitely got to keep it moving.
Yeah,
I'll see you soon, no doubt. So, I'm interested to see what happens with these dudes. So, I'm going to leave you guys with this, and I stand on it. I will go to my grave with it. Stop letting these guys off the hook. Stop trading these guys. Stop asking for this guy or that guy. You have the necessary pieces. Make these guys get better. Stop letting these, especially when the money works, especially when you got them in a contract that works for you. When the money works, and you got them in a space where the money works for you, where you're not overpaying a guy, and you got to get off this contract. Stop letting these guys off the hook. Make these guys get better. Demand that they get better. Don't let Bam walk out the front door. Do not let Jabari Smith just go. Don't do that. Make these guys get better. Your teams will be better longer, especially when you have these guys in contract situations that's conducive to your unit. I got to bounce. It was good to see you guys tonight. I will see you guys soon. Until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother. Well, last time you talk to your mother, call your mother. I'll talk to you guys soon, man. Until then, take it light.